Hello and welcome to another Procreate Basics video. Today I'm going to talk about how you can trace an image in Procreate. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new canvas. I'm using screen size for this demo. It's not typically what I use. I usually use an 8x10, but for this demo we're just using screen size. And now I'm going to find an image that I can trace. Now I usually use unsplash.com, so I'm going to go to Safari. I have unsplash.com open. I usually use this website for finding reference photos that I want to trace because of the license. So if I tap here and go to license, the photos here can be downloaded and used for free. They can be used for commercial and non-commercial purposes and no permission required. So when you are tracing an image, either use your own images or use an image that has the appropriate license. You don't want to trace something that would infringe on someone else's copyright. So be really careful about what you're tracing, especially if you're posting online. If you're tracing for practice, no problem. But if you are going to post something online from something that you have traced, make sure you have the appropriate license or it's your image. Now I'm going to look for a photo with flowers in it. You can pick anything that you want. Flowers are a good starting point if you're a beginner and you want to trace photos and learn. I'm going to select any image that catches my fancy. Maybe this one. This is a nice image. So tap on the image. Now you want to save this image to your iPad. So just tap on download free and then tap on download. And what will happen is your image will end up here. So just tap on the little arrow button and then tap on the image and then tap on this little icon here. There's a lot of tapping. And then click on Save Image. So now this image will be saved to your photo gallery. And what you can do is you can import it into Procreate. So to import, go to your Actions menu, make sure you're on Add, and then tap on Insert a Photo. And then select the photo that you want. And now you can kind of resize it with your fingers, and I'm happy with that. And now what you want to do is, in order to trace this image, you actually want to reduce the opacity, make it a little easier to trace over. So I'm going to go to my Layers panel, and then you see this N here? You want to tap on that and reduce the opacity. I'm going to reduce it to about 35%. You can reduce it even further if you want, but I don't tend to reduce it too much because then it becomes hard to trace. And you don't want it to be too high because then you can't see the lines that you're making. So around 30-ish is a good number. And then you want to trace in another layer, not on the same layer. You want to trace in another layer. So tap, and this creates a new layer. And you can use any pencil that you want. I'm going to use one of the pencils that I created, Tapered Sketch. But if you want to use the default brushes in Procreate, there's plenty to choose from here in the sketching section. So I love the Tapered Sketch brush. It's a brush that I made. It's one I use for all my sketching. So I'm going to select not quite black, but like a very dark gray. And all you have to do now is just trace over the image. So that's a little bit too big. Change the brush size and then trace over the image. So there's something I wanted to say when you're tracing. A lot of times, especially as a beginner, you might feel that you want to trace the lines perfectly and you don't feel confident about your own line work. My suggestion is use the image as a guide. Try not to trace it completely. Do your own line work. And also when you're tracing, a good idea is to start thinking about the shapes, because you could trace a lot of different things but not really learn too much about drawing unless you start to think about how the shapes form the image. So here, if I think about it, there is a circle or an oval here, and then you have these lines connecting to the oval. So whenever I'm tracing, I always try to think about what is the underlying shape. And over time, what will happen is, if you've traced a lot of different things, you will start to really understand how the objects are formed, and you'll be able to draw on your own. I didn't go to art school. I didn't really learn how to draw. And I haven't really drawn since I was in high school, which was like over 20 years ago. So for me, tracing was a really good way to start kind of learning and getting confident with my lines. But always when you're tracing, just think about the shapes that make up your object. And over time, you will be able to draw on your own. Trust me, I started off with tracing about 2 years ago, and now I can draw pretty well on my own. But if you're a beginner, there's absolutely no problem with tracing. A lot of people think tracing is not a good thing to do, but trust me, if you're a beginner and it gives you that confidence, why not? But always make sure if you are tracing, make sure that you don't claim that as your own work, and definitely don't trace something that is a copyrighted image and then post online. So that's just something I wanted to say. So here I've traced a little bit more. I haven't traced the entire image. Now, if you want to just see your sketch layer and not see the image underneath, just tap here on that layer that had the photo to remove that layer from view, and you'll be able to see your sketch. It's pretty simple. So that's how you trace an image in Procreate. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below.